We begin this morning with a key vote in the House that is setting up a showdown with Democrats and the White House, with the nation's economy hanging in the balance.
Last night, House Republicans passed a bill to raise the debt ceiling, and raising the debt ceiling is needed to help the U.S. avoid defaulting on its debt obligations, which could have catastrophic consequences for the nation's economy. But the House bill would also cut spending and roll back some of President Biden's agenda. Now, the passage is a symbolic victory for House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. It now goes to the Senate, where Democrats have said they will not pass the legislation in its current form. Despite that, McCarthy had this message.
When President Biden and Senate Democrats waste time, House Republicans are taking action. President Biden has a choice. Come to the table and stop playing partisan political games.
Let's bring in NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Sirkin. So, Julie, good morning. Good to see you. This was a bit of a challenge for the Speaker to get enough Republican votes to pass. So what were his obstacles and what's in this version?
Yeah, it was a big challenge, and it really only passed by a fraction of a hair, just 4 votes that voted against the bill out of Republicans. That's all he could lose, and he spent 24 hours before this vote, even the hours and minutes before it happened, whipping, trying to get those Republicans who were against this plan to come around for it. So you're seeing what's in it on your screen. The big picture here is that it would, in theory, slash the deficit by $4.5 trillion over the next decade. That's the big win that McCarthy sees out of this bill. And it really gets them to the negotiating table with President Biden, who's been asking to see the Republican plan for some time now, since he put out his own budget. Take a listen to what Speaker McCarthy had to say yesterday after his victory lap.
The House Republicans just passed the only bill in Washington that lifts the debt limit, ends wasteful Washington spending, and puts America back on the right economic path. We lifted the debt limit. We've sent it to the Senate. We've done our job, the only body in here that's done theirs.
Now, this is probably going to be the easiest bill for McCarthy to get across the floor, and this process was anything but easy. But look, it does slash the deficit, as I said, and it does lift the debt limit through mid-2024, setting up a potentially another battle between Democrats and Republicans in an election year.
So, Julie, Republicans have been critical of Democrats and the Biden White House for wanting to raise this debt ceiling. But we're going to show you this has been done dozens of times over the past 60 years, including when there have been Republicans and Democrats in the White House. So what has been some of the reaction from lawmakers to this bill that passed last night?
Yeah, I spoke to some Republicans after this vote. I spoke to one, Tim Burchett from Tennessee, who ended up voting against this bill. He actually told me this does nothing to address the deficit, and he said he's prepared to vote against raising the debt limit all the way, even into the summer, when we're expected to hit default for the very first time. On the flip side, I spoke to another Republican who did end up supporting this bill, but he said this was the bare minimum he'd be willing to accept. Take a listen to that.
That was the bare minimum, no. And I told him that today, and a lot of us did. Plus, there cannot be any bill that Republicans take up, and Steve Scalise has promised he would not bring a bill up until they get back with us.
To cut the rate of growth, it would actually add to the deficit in over 10 years. So cutting the rate of growth is not cutting the deficit to me.
Now, they're all saying, as Burchett went on to say, as Speaker McCarthy said, too, that let the Senate own this, because they know Democrats aren't going to bring this bill up. That's not really going to fly. Historically, any party that threatened the shutdown is the one that ultimately gets blamed for it.
So, Julie, President Biden also said he would veto this if it did get to his desk. All the while, we are facing this deadline in sometime in June. So what's at stake here?
Oh, a lot. Even the threat of a potential shutdown could send markets spiraling around the globe. And that's the big fear here. But as we get closer to this date, Treasury has been in what they're calling emergency measures for a few months now. Once those are exhausted, we're going to see a lot on the chopping block. I mean, besides the typical impact for American workers and consumers, we can go into a recession, which is the exact opposite of Republicans have been preaching for weeks and months here. We can also see stock portfolios crash. But on the very practical side, in the government, they're going to start falling behind in their payments. They're going to start cutting programs and paying for others to try to make measures last. All in all, we've never hit a default in our nation's history, and it will be catastrophic.
All right, Julie, thank you so much. This morning, another big setback for former President Trump and his efforts to keep Mike Pence from testifying about January 6th.
Last night, a federal appeals court rejected Trump's attempt to block his former vice president from appearing before a federal grand jury that's investigating the attack on the Capitol and Trump's alleged role in trying to overturn the 2020 election. For more, we're joined by NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. So, Danny, where does the Trump team go from here, and could this potentially end up in the Supreme Court?
After a circuit court of appeals in the federal system, there is only one other place left to go, and that is the United States Supreme Court. Will it go there? Maybe. It's hard to say because the legal issues are obscured. You have a sealed district court order that was appealed, and the Circuit Court of Appeals issued a sealed opinion. So to guess at what the legal issues are here, we have a pretty good idea. But whether or not the Supreme Court would take it up is another question. There doesn't appear to be a circuit split, a disagreement among the circuits about executive privilege, but we know it exists. Maybe this defines the contours of it in a way that the high court would be interested in taking it up. But it's really hard to say whether or not it will arrive at the Supreme Court. I think it's likely Trump will appeal. That's his MO. That's his litigation strategy. Appeal, fight on until the very end.
Danny, let's switch gears here. Let's talk about Ron DeSantis and Disney over in Florida. So Disney just filed a federal lawsuit alleging constitutional violations against DeSantis. This is all over that special district that Disney has in Florida. It's also over their opposition to that so-called Don't Say Gay bill. So what is Disney alleging here?
Disney's alleging that the state of Florida is violating the Contracts Clause of the Constitution. There's a provision in the Constitution that says that the state may not make legislation that interferes with private contracts. Now, that is a very broad statement. There are obviously exceptions because virtually every piece of legislation affects us and our private contracts in one way or another, even if it adds some kind of incidental cost to us complying with that law. So it's not enough to simply allege that my contract's been interfered with. But in a case like this, where I think Disney could show that the state of Florida targeted them, that they were, the legislation existed essentially to punish Disney, then I think they might have a strong contracts case. In my opinion, the remaining counts, the First Amendment allegations, they're interesting. They're not as compelling as the Contracts Clause claim, and that's why that appears prominently as number one in their causes of action.
Danny, Governor DeSantis weighed in on the lawsuit while he was in Israel this morning. Let's take a listen to what he had to say, and we'll talk on the other side.
I don't think the suit has merit. I think it's political. I think they filed, in Tallahassee for a reason because they're trying to generate, some district court decision. But we're very confident on the law.
So, Danny, what could this lawsuit mean legally for Governor DeSantis, and do we expect him to take any additional legal action?
I think he'll defend it. I don't think there's anything to resolve. This is not the kind of case like a personal injury case, like a Fox Dominion case, where the parties could come together and say and put a dollar amount, a number on it. Disney needs this legislation to go away. They need their autonomy in order to survive and thrive as a company. And look, when you read the lawsuit, Disney spends considerable time, pages and pages, describing the benefits, the economic benefits that Disney brings to the state of Florida. So this really isn't about a money judgment, as most lawsuits are. This is about challenging the constitutionality of a law. So there really is no negotiating there unless somehow the state of Florida says we take it all back.
All right. Thank you for breaking it all down for us, Danny. Thank you.
As the 2024 presidential election season is just beginning, a new NBC News poll shows the country is facing a deep political and cultural divide. The poll focused on issues like race, culture, and transgender acceptance. And it shows that Democrats and Republicans have profoundly different views. And that is having a major impact on politics. NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray joins us now to break down these numbers for us. So good morning, Mark. Let's start with the issue of race. How do voters view civil rights and our society?
Lindsay, our poll actually asked the question, is American society racist? And 59% of Americans said yes. That's actually consistent with what our poll has found in the past, even going all the way back into the 1980s. But there is a huge divide here when it comes to political party, where you end up having 7 in 10 Republicans saying that no, American society is not racist, and 85% of Democrats saying yes, it is racist. And also on the issue of race, Lindsay, our poll ends up asked the question about Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. Are people judged by the content of their character or by their skin? And overall, you end up having a kind of a division in the country. But the big divide is on party, where you have 72% of Americans disagreeing that people are judged by the content of their character, but compared with 70% of Republicans who agree with that statement.
So, Mark, voters were also asked about so-called traditional values and tolerance. What does the polling show on that?
Yeah, once again, a really big divide here. The poll asked the question, what should be society's bigger goal? And that is encouraging tolerance or encouraging traditional values. And once again, 67% of Democrats on the side of tolerance and 74% of Republicans on the side of traditional values.
So, Mark, transgender rights is a major issue at the forefront of the elections, and this poll revealed some pretty strong feelings among voters about their acceptance of transgender Americans. So if you can you address that? And also, you look at these numbers and you look at them in the bigger context of the landscape of American politics. What light can you shed on where we are?
Yeah, let me start with your second question first. And again, it just shows our political divides are also our cultural divides and vice versa. And on transgender rights, Lindsay, our poll shows, again, once have been a division where 48% of Americans think that society's gone too far when it comes to accepting transgender people versus 43% who say it hasn't gone far enough. Now, once again, you have Democrats on the side of, hey, society hasn't gone far enough. Republicans on the side of it has gone too far. But there are some even more interesting divisions here by age, Lindsay. Younger people are much more acceptant. They believe that society hasn't gone far enough. And then also when it comes to people who actually know someone who is transgender, that acceptance goes way up in our poll.
All right, Mark, thank you for breaking those numbers down.
The White House rolled out the red carpet for South Korea's president yesterday for a state visit marking 70 years of the two countries' alliance. Among the key agreements unveiled was the so-called Washington Declaration, a deterrence plan aimed at countering North Korea's nuclear threat. NBC News White House correspondent Ali Rafa joins us now for more on this. So, Ali, walk us through what exactly this plan involves and how it's expected to work.
Yeah, guys, good morning. Lots of pomp and circumstance and symbolism associated with this trip yesterday. The first by a South Korean president to the White House since the Clinton administration. But there was just as much official business that got done yesterday as well. This was a plan unveiled yesterday, an effort to strengthen the alliance between the U.S. and South Korea to combat aggression from not just North Korea, but also China. This is called, they're calling it the Washington Framework. It's actually modeled after a similar arrangement that the U.S. had with European allies during the Cold War. And it focuses on nuclear and strategic planning to deter nuclear aggression from North Korea. As we've all seen its ballistic missile testing ramp up in the last few months. Listen to how the president described this plan yesterday.
A nuclear attack by North Korea against the United States or its allies or partisans our partners is unacceptable and will result in the end of whatever regime were to take such an action. The bottom line here is there's even closer cooperation, closer consultation, and we're not going to be stationing nuclear weapons on the peninsula, but we will have ports visits of nuclear submarines.
As you heard the president say there, this deal would call for periodic docking of U.S. nuclear-armed submarines in South Korea for the first time in decades. The U.S. would be in control of these weapons. And this is all essentially to minimize the need for South Korea to re-up the nuclear program that it ended nearly 50 years ago. This also creates a stronger alliance between South Korea and the U.S. To deter that aggressiveness in the Asia-Pacific region. This is all met by the Biden administration to strengthen those alliances in the region. We saw the president go to South Korea to visit last year. We saw him meet with the Japanese prime minister in the last few weeks, and he's also expected to meet with the president of the Philippines very soon. So that's all part of this wider effort, guys.
And Ali, there was a special moment at last night's dinner that saw the South Korean president grab the microphone for a brief sing-along. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, this was a great moment. President Yoon saying that American Pie was his favorite song. So he was challenged by the president to go ahead and sing that song. I want you to take a bit of a listen to this moment from last night.
A long, long time ago, I can still remember how that music used to make me smile. Something touched me deep inside the day the music died.
Definitely a highlight from that dinner. And once he finished, we saw President Biden gift President Yoon with an autographed guitar from Don McLean, who obviously wrote and sang that famous song, guys.
All right, very talented guy there, Allie. Thanks so much.
All right, everybody, we are tracking wet weather across the country this morning, starting in California, where a record snowpack is creating concerns as it melts. We're going to get to Angie Lastman in a second, but want to show you some video here because the snowpack in the Sierra Mountains is 250% larger than normal this year. Of course, with rising temperatures, people are now bracing for the massive flooding that melting snow could cause. They're already dealing with that in some states along the Mississippi, where they're continuing to fight against the rising river. Communities have been urged to evacuate as that water has reached historic levels.
Meteorologist Angie Lastman joins us now with more on the severe weather impacting states across the country. Angie, good morning.
Morning, ladies. Yeah, you know, we've got a lot going on, right? We've got the melting snow that's impacting parts of the Mississippi. When we look out west, that snow has really been helpful in alleviating the drought that California has been dealing with for a very long time. But of course, it comes with the downside of all of that snow having to melt and go somewhere and causing flooding problems. Here's the flood warnings that are currently in effect up and down the Mississippi. This is going to be through next week. We'll likely see some of these areas peaking as we get into early next week, where there's minor, moderate, and already major flooding in some spots. So that'll be something to watch. And of course, down south, we're continuing to watch a system work across portions of the south and eventually the southeast, moving into the mid-Atlantic and northeast here as we get into the late part of the work week and into the weekend. But right now, there's some thunderstorms that have worked through and really caused probably a mess in some spots for the early morning commute. We have plenty of lightning associated with that. We have heavy rain already, and we have the potential for some of these thunderstorms to kind of gain some intensity as we get into the afternoon and evening hours and bring us some hail. Yesterday, we saw 4-inch hail in parts of Texas. It was really incredible. Today, not quite as big of hail expected, but nonetheless, it's still going to be something to watch when we're expecting 2 inches or larger. We also will have the wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. Tornado threat is a little lower today, but of course, we won't rule that out completely. And as we look to where we could see some of the larger hail, it's mainly focused along the east coast of Florida, from Jacksonville down through Fort Pierce and extreme southern portions of Texas. That's where we're expecting kind of golf ball size hail. As we get into tomorrow, the severe threat doesn't diminish completely. We'll see that centered over Texas. Places like Dallas going to once again see the potential to see some hail, some winds, and even a couple of tornadoes. And in addition to all of that, we also have the heavy rain that's going to be problematic. We've got spots that could pick up maybe 3 to even 5 inches of rain. So isolated flooding is possible. We have the flash flood risk that'll last for the day today from New Orleans all the way through Panama City. It could be even in places like Montgomery, Jackson. So just watch for that. Now, I mentioned the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast get in on this. You can see this is as we head into tomorrow evening. Some of that rain starts to spread into the Ohio Valley. It'll be kind of a steady rain from Michigan to the Carolinas, and it'll be impactful for weekend plans. This is something that will leave us with an unsettled kind of weekend for the Northeast, especially, and even into portions of the Midwest where they'll be dealing with snow. I know that is not what people want to hear in late April, but unfortunately, we'll be watching this, ladies, at least through Saturday and into Sunday.
Okay, good to know for the weekend.
Keep the umbrellas handy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.